Welcome to my channel. I hope you find this story entertaining. Let's start. I observed Christine from across the living room, my jaw tight. She scurried about, preparing to leave for the evening. The clock on the wall read 9:30 p.m., far too late for any professional event she purported to attend. Going somewhere, I inquired, attempting to keep my tone even. Christine barely looked my way, just drinks with the colleagues. Wrapped up a big project today, odd. I thought to myself, I don't recall you discussing any project. She shrugged, adjusting her lipstick in her compact mirror. Must have slipped my mind lately. I'd been noticing subtle signs the late evenings, the secretive text messages, how she angled her phone away when I approached. Tonight felt distinct, though there was a palpable tension in the air, a premonition that something was about to erupt. As Christine seized her handbag, I glimpsed her attire and felt a chill. The dress she chose was daringly low-cut, revealing far too much. "What the hell are you wearing?" I blurted out, unable to suppress my frustration. Christine's gaze hardened. "Excuse me, you heard me. That outfit is totally unsuitable," she chuckled, her laugh sharp and derisive. "I don't need your approval, Mitchell. He prefers it this way." Her words struck me sharply. He. Who the hell is he? For a moment, a hint of either guilt or defiance flickered in Christine's eyes, but then her expression stiffened. "John," she declared, "and he's waiting outside for a wild evening." The world seemed to spin momentarily. John, who was he? A colleague? Someone from her fitness class? "You're having an affair," I stated, the words alien in my mouth. Christine didn't deny it. She simply looked at me, defiant, anger surging within me, potent and fierce. "If you leave now, don't bother returning for a second." I thought I detected a pause in her demeanor, but then she straightened up. "I guess this is farewell," she stated icily, and just like that she departed. The door slammed shut behind her, its sound reverberating through the now silent home. I stood there, stunned, as the gravity of the situation overwhelmed me. My wife of 5 years had left me for another man. The initial shock transitioned to a whirlwind of emotions: betrayal, embarrassment, sorrow. Yet beneath it all simmered a slow, growing rage. I grabbed my phone, scrolled through my contacts, and dialed. Lawrence, I spoke as he answered. "I need a drink and some advice." Shortly after, I sat opposite my best friend in a dimly lit pub, a whiskey in hand. "She just left?" Lawrence inquired, concern etching his face. I nodded, taking a deep gulp, walked straight out to meet her lover. "Christ, Mitch, I'm so sorry." I dismissed his pity. "Don't be. I'm done feeling sorry for myself. Now I'm just enraged." Lawrence leaned in. "So what's your plan?" I pondered his question. The alcohol had numbed the initial ache, leaving behind a calculated anger. "I'm going to ruin them," I declared. "Both of them. I want Christine to regret ever thinking of betraying me." Lawrence raised his eyebrows, surprised. "That's quite severe, man. Are you sure that's the wisest approach?" I met his look firmly. "You've known me long enough, Larry. When have I ever just let things slide?" He sighed. "No, I guess not." I finished my drink. "So, are you in or not?" After a pause, Lawrence nodded. "All right, I'm in. What's the first step?" A smile crept onto my face. "First, we need evidence." Evidence. "I'm hiring a PI to gather solid proof of their affair, and then we start breaking down Christine's life, piece by piece." As I explained my strategy to Lawrence, I felt a clear sense of direction forming within me. Christine had made her choice, and now she would face the consequences. The next day, I woke with a severe headache but a heart filled with resolve. Christine hadn't returned home, which was preferable. I had no desire to see her face. I called in sick and spent the morning on calls. By midday, I had secured a meeting with Joe McGinnis, a private investigator a co-worker had recommended. Joe turned out to be a sharp-witted woman in her 50s with keen eyes and an even keener mind. "So you want me to dig up dirt on your unfaithful wife?" she asked bluntly after I described the situation and her accomplice. "I need undeniable evidence of the affair: photos, videos, audio recordings, everything you can get." I emphasized the need for comprehensive proof. Joe tapped her pen against her notepad. "It won't be cheap," she warned. I held her gaze. "Money is not a problem. I'm looking for the best." She scrutinized me for a moment, then nodded. "All right, I'll take the case. But I must caution you, Mr. Buck. Sometimes the truth is harsher than we anticipate." Are you ready for what I might uncover? I'm ready for anything, I declared. And please call me Mitchell after settling the details with Joe. I contacted Alma Welch. Renowned as the most formidable divorce attorney in the state, I needed someone relentless. Alma's office was a blend of sleek lines and contemporary art, and she herself was no less refined, her smile sharp enough to slice through glass. Mitchell, she greeted, shaking my hand firmly. I outlined the situation for her, noting her eyes spark with professional intrigue. Well, she remarked after I finished, it appears your wife has made some regrettable choices. Fortunately for you, we're in a fault-based divorce state. With solid proof of infidelity, we can ensure Christine ends up with very little. How little, I inquired. Alma's smile broadened. If we play our cards right, virtually nothing. We spent the next hour formulating a strategy. Alma advised me to begin documenting everything: financial records, text messages, emails, anything that could strengthen our case. And Mitchell, she cautioned as I prepared to leave, do nothing rash. No confrontations, no threats. Let me manage the legal aspects, you focus. On collecting evidence, I nodded, though internally my thoughts were already racing with plans. While Alma would manage the divorce, I contemplated other methods to ensure Christine would pay. That evening, surrounded by documents on my laptop, I started a meticulous spreadsheet of our finances, cataloging every shared account and every credit card in Christine's name. A text from Joe illuminated my phone, tracking targets now. Will update soon. The plan was unfolding. Christine believed she could deceive me without facing repercussions. She was about to discover her grave miscalculation. As I labored, a peculiar sense of resolution enveloped me. The pain and betrayal lingered, but they were overshadowed by a cold, focused fury. Christine had chosen her path. Now I would choose mine. I worked late into the night, devising a scheme that would strip Christine of everything: her finances, her reputation, her support network. Drifting to sleep, my final thought was imagining Christine's realization of just how gravely she had underestimated me. It wasn't a compassionate thought, but then my feelings were anything but gentle these days. Weeks flew by in a whirlwind of activity. I immersed myself in my plan with unwavering determination, improving my fitness, dressing better, and reconnecting with old friends. To the external observer, I might have seemed like a man rebounding from a tough separation, oblivious to the turmoil beneath the surface. On a particularly bright afternoon, I met for coffee with Gloria Richmond, an old college acquaintance I had recently reconnected with. "You're looking well, Mitch," she observed, her gaze filled with concern. "How are you?" Truly, I offered her a faint smile. "Better than expected, honestly." Staying occupied helps. Gloria extended her hand across the table, offering a comforting squeeze. "I'm here if you need to talk, or just for a distraction." For a moment I was tempted to confide in Gloria, to divulge the full scope of my schemes, but I refrained. The fewer who knew, the better. "Thanks, Gloria," I responded instead. "I appreciate that." As we conversed, I couldn't help but contrast Gloria with Christine. Where my wife had been distant and self-absorbed, Gloria was affectionate and sincerely supportive. It sharply highlighted how detrimental my marriage had become. Later that week, I initiated the next phase of my plan. I had been gradually fostering relationships with Christine's colleagues, portraying myself as the aggrieved yet dignified spouse. It was time to sow some doubts. I met with Christine's colleague, Sarah, for lunch. During the meal, I subtly directed our talk toward my soon-to-be ex-wife. "I just don't get it," I confessed, allowing a touch of vulnerability to show. "Did Christine ever mention anything to you about being dissatisfied?" Sarah shifted uneasily. "Not really. I mean, she'd grumble about work occasionally, but nothing significant." I nodded, gazing down at my meal. "It's just, I keep wondering if there were signs I overlooked, if there was something more I could have done." "Oh, Mitch," Sarah replied, her tone laden with compassion, "I'm certain it wasn't anything you did." Christine, well, she hesitated, appearing troubled. I leaned in. "What? Please, Sarah, I need to understand." And Sarah exhaled. "It's just that Christine could be quite self-centered at times, always focused on her own desires, never mindful of others. To be honest, many of us were surprised you two lasted as long as you did." I let my expression crumple as though her words had wounded me deeply. "I see. Thank you for your candor," I expressed as I left the restaurant, allowing myself a discreet, satisfied smile. Another seed planted. Soon Christine would see her support network weaken around her. That evening, I received another update from Jo. She had captured some particularly incriminating photos of Christine and John together. It was time for the next move. With a few keystrokes, I set up an anonymous email account, and after carefully removing any identifiable metadata, I attached the photos and drafted a concise message. Lauren Curry, I thought you should know what your husband has been up to. I'm sorry to bring you this news, a concerned friend. I sent the email before I could reconsider. John's wife deserved the truth, and the turmoil it would stir in his personal life was just a bonus. Next, I focused on Christine's workplace. A few strategically spread rumors, a whispered comment here and there, and soon her professional. Her reputation would be in shambles. As I orchestrated these events, a cold satisfaction enveloped me. Christine and John thought they were clever. Sneaking around behind my back, they had no clue what awaited them. The next day, a frantic call from Christine came. Mitchell, she said, her voice strained with anxiety, something odd is happening at work. People are acting strangely around me, and I heard a rumor that I'm involved with a client. Did you say anything? I kept my voice neutral. Why would I say anything, Christine? I haven't spoken to anyone at your office. I don't know. What's happening? For a moment, I almost felt pity for her, but then I recalled the expression she wore as she left me. Sounds like you have a problem, I remarked coolly. I'm sure you and John can sort it out together. I ended the call before she could reply. Smirk on my face. The storm was just beginning to brew. Soon Christine would realize just how greatly she had underestimated me. As I settled in for another night of plotting, a sense of anticipation built within me. The pieces were all in place now. It was time to watch them fall. I woke early, anticipation pulsing through me. Today was the day I'd begin to dismantle Christine's life, piece by piece. My first stop was the bank. Good morning, Mr. Buck. How can I assist you today? The teller greeted me with a smile. I need to make some changes to my accounts, I stated, sliding over the necessary paperwork. Her eyes widened slightly as she read the form. You want to remove your wife from all joint accounts, I confirmed. That's correct, and I'd like to transfer the funds to new accounts, just in my name. I see, she responded, her tone carefully neutral. And your wife is aware of these changes? She will be, I coolly replied. As I left the bank, I pulled out my phone and dialed our credit card company. Time to cancel Christine's cards. Next on my list was changing the locks. The locksmith arrived promptly at noon. Nasty business, divorce, he remarked as he worked. I grunted in agreement. You have no idea. With the financial sabotage complete, I turned my attention to the next phase of my plan. I had compiled all the evidence. Jo had gathered photos, recordings, text messages. It was time to make it public. I established a new social media profile under a fictitious name and began sharing images of Christine and John in delicate situations, along with screenshots of their private text conversations. The content spread rapidly. My phone vibrated with a text from Christine. What the hell is happening? Why are my cards declined? I disregarded it, concentrating on my next move. I had acquired the contact details of Christine's parents. They needed to be informed of their daughter's actions. The phone rang twice before Catherine Moon picked up. Hello, Mrs. Moon. This is Mitchell Buck, Christine's husband. Oh, Mitchell, how are you, dear? Is everything all right? I inhaled deeply. I'm afraid not, Mrs. Moon. There's something you and Mr. Moon should be aware of regarding Christine. By the time I finished explaining, Catherine was distraught. I can't believe it, she sobbed. Christine, how could she do this? I'm sorry to be the one to inform you, I replied, my tone devoid of genuine regret, but I thought you deserved to know the truth. After ending the call, I checked my email. A message from Alma Welch awaited me. Mitchell, the divorce papers are prepared. I've arranged for them to be delivered to Christine at her workplace tomorrow. Are you certain you want to proceed with this? I quickly typed a response. Absolutely, do it. As dusk settled, I leaned back in my chair, reflecting on the day's achievements. Christine's financial security was obliterated, her reputation shattered, her family alienated, and tomorrow she would be publicly served divorce papers. Yet I wasn't finished, not by a long shot. I opened my laptop and began composing a series of anonymous, disconcerting messages that would keep Christine perpetually uneasy. I know what you did. He's not who you think he is. Watch your back. I scheduled these to be sent intermittently over the next few days to let her marinate in paranoia. My phone buzzed again with more desperate messages from Christine. Mitchell, please, what's happening? Why can't I access our accounts? My parents just called. They're livid. What did you tell them? Answer me, damn it, I ignored all her pleas. She had made her choices, now she could suffer the consequences. As I readied for bed, a sense of gratification enveloped me. The downfall had commenced. Christine thought she could simply exit our marriage without repercussions. She was about to discover her grave error. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and further opportunities to tighten the noose. I drifted off to sleep with a smile, envisioning Christine's world collapsing around her. The next few days passed in a whirl of activity. From a distance, I watched as Christine's life disintegrated, bit by bit. My phone rang. It was Lawrence. Mitch, man, have you seen the news? I switched on the TV, turning to the local station. There, plastered across the screen, was Christine's face. The headline announced, "Local businesswoman embroiled in scandalous affair." Holy, I muttered. Yeah, Lawrence replied, it's everywhere, social media, news sites, even the radio. How did this happen? I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. No idea, but I can't say I'm upset about it. Lawrence's voice carried a note of caution. This is getting pretty intense. Are you sure you want to continue down this path? Absolutely, I asserted without hesitation. She made her choice, Lawrence. Now she faces the consequences. After hanging up, I checked my email. A message from Joe McGinnis was waiting. Mitchell, as requested, I've been monitoring John. Thought you'd like to know he's been seen having lunch with his wife. Lauren appeared quite affectionate, sending you some photos now, Joe. I opened the attached files. There was John, seated across from an attractive blonde woman, their hands intertwined, his expression earnest and pleading. Perfect. I forwarded the photos to the anonymous email account I had set up, then sent them to Christine with a simple note. Looks like you're not the only one moving on. My phone immediately lit up with incoming calls from Christine, which I ignored. Instead, I headed out to meet Gloria for lunch. As I walked into the restaurant, I saw her waving from a corner table. Mitchell, she greeted me warmly. How are you holding up? I offered her a wry smile. Better than expected. Actually, how about you? How's work going? We conversed effortlessly, the dialogue flowing smoothly. It was pleasant and relaxed, something that had been missing with Christine for quite a while. As we wrapped up, Gloria's demeanor turned earnest. Listen, Mitch, I know you're dealing with a lot right now. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here for you. I reached across the table, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. Thanks, Gloria. That really means a lot. Back at home, I checked the surveillance equipment I had installed to monitor the house while I was away. To my surprise, I saw Christine stumbling through the front door. I descended the stairs, leaning against the doorframe as she fumbled with her keys. What are you doing here? I asked icily. Christine whirled around, her eyes wide and rimmed with red. Mitchell, I didn't know where else to go. Well, you can't stay here, I stated. I changed the locks for a reason, please, she pleaded, her voice breaking. Everything's falling apart. I lost my job, my friends won't talk to me, my parents. And whose fault is that I interrupted? You made your choices, Christine. Now you have to live with them. She took a step toward me, reaching out. I'm sorry, Mitchell. I made a terrible mistake. Can't we just talk about this? For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her, but then I recalled the look on her face as she left, and my determination solidified. There's nothing to talk about, I said. You chose John, remember? So why don't you go cry to him instead? Christine's face crumpled. John? He's gone. He went back to his wife. I couldn't help but laugh. Of course he did. What did you think? That he was going to leave his wife for you? Grow up, Christine. Please, she whispered. I have nowhere else to go. I stepped back, my hand on the door. That's not my problem anymore. Goodbye, Christine. As I shut the door on her tear-stained face, I felt a surge of vindication. Let her experience a fraction of the pain and humiliation she'd caused me. Back in my study, I pulled up the footage from the outside cameras, watching as Christine slowly made her way down the driveway. She paused at the gate, looking back at the house one last time before vanishing into the night. I leaned back in my chair, a smile on my face. The breakdown was complete. Christine had lost everything: her job, her reputation, her lover, her home, just as I had planned. But I wasn't finished yet. Oh no, the final act was yet to come. The day of the divorce trial dawned bright and clear. I adjusted my tie in the mirror, meeting my own gaze. This was it, the culmination of weeks of planning and maneuvering. Alma was waiting for me outside the courthouse, her expression sharp and focused. "Are you ready for this?" she asked as we walked in. I nodded. "More than ready. Let's finish this." The courtroom was packed, news of our high-profile divorce having attracted curious onlookers and reporters. I spotted Christine sitting with her lawyer, Crystal Kenny. She looked pale and drawn, shadows under her eyes. The judge called the court to order, and the proceedings began. Alma was relentless, presenting a mountain of evidence of Christine's infidelity, bank statements showing expensive gifts bought for John, hotel receipts, the damning photos and recordings from Joe McGinnis. Christine's lawyer attempted to object, but it was clear she was fighting a losing battle. "Your Honor," Crystal argued, "my client admits to the affair but claims that Mr. Buck's subsequent actions constitute harassment and emotional abuse." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Do you have evidence to support these claims, Miss Kenny?" Crystal fumbled with her papers. "We're still gathering." "In other words, no." Alma interjected smoothly. "Your Honor, Mr. Buck's actions were all within his legal rights as an aggrieved spouse. When it was my turn to testify, I took the stand, meeting Christine's gaze steadily. "Mr. Buck," Alma began, "can you tell the court about the night you discovered your wife's infidelity?" I took a deep breath, allowing a hint of emotion to show in my voice. I had been noticing changes in Christine's behavior for weeks: late nights at work, secretive phone calls. But I trusted her. I never thought she'd betray me like this. I detailed that evening vividly: Christine's provocative dress, her indifferent dismissal of our union, the casual way she discarded our 5 years together. "And how did this affect you, Mr. Buck?" I allowed a slight crack in my voice. "It devastated me. I felt humiliated, betrayed. The woman I loved, who I believed loved me, had been deceiving me for months. From the corner of my eye, I noticed several jury members nodding in empathy. During cross-examination, Christine's lawyer attempted to depict me as manipulative and spiteful, but I remained composed and calm. "Mr. Buck," Crystal pressed, "isn't it true that you orchestrated a campaign to ruin my client's life?" After discovering the affair, I met her gaze firmly. "I took measures to secure myself financially and emotionally from a woman who had shown she couldn't be trusted. Everything I did was legal and justified." As the trial progressed, I observed Christine becoming increasingly unsettled. Her eyes flickered around the courtroom, her hands twisted in her lap. Finally, it was time for the judge's decision. Having reviewed all the evidence presented, the judge started. "This court rules in favor of the plaintiff, Mitchell Buck. Mrs. Buck's infidelity and subsequent actions have clearly breached the terms of our marriage contract." I held my breath, anticipating the verdict. "Therefore, I am granting Mr. Buck's petition for divorce. Furthermore, given the circumstances, I am awarding Mr. Buck 70% of the marital assets. Mrs. Buck will retain her personal belongings and a modest settlement, as determined by the court." A gasp rose from the gallery. I saw Christine slump in her seat, her face turning pale. The judge continued, "Additionally, full custody of any children from this marriage will be awarded to Mr. Buck, with Mrs. Buck granted supervised visitation at Mr. Buck's discretion." It was more than I had hoped for. I turned to Alma, who nodded to me with a small, satisfied expression. As court adjourned, chaos erupted. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed. Through it all, I kept my focus on Christine. She stood slowly, her legs trembling. Our eyes met across the courtroom, and I saw the full impact of her loss in her expression. Then, her face crumpled, and she burst into tears. I watched dispassionately as Crystal tried to console her, guiding her toward a side exit. Just before they vanished from view, I saw John push through the crowd, reaching for Christine. She recoiled from him, her voice rising hysterically. "Don't touch me. This is all your fault." As they disappeared, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Gloria. "It's over," she whispered gently. "How do you feel?" I took a deep breath, exhaling slowly. "I feel free." As we exited the courthouse, reporters swarmed around us. I raised a hand for silence. "I have only one statement," I declared clearly. "Actions have consequences." My wife made her choice, and now she and everyone else can see where that choice led her. With that, I took Gloria's arm and we walked away, leaving the clamor of the courthouse behind. The sun was shining, the air felt fresh and clean. For the first time in months, I felt like I could truly breathe again. The storm had passed, and I had emerged victorious. The morning after the trial, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in months. The house was quiet, free of Christine's presence. I stretched, savoring the peace. My phone buzzed with a text from Gloria. "How are you holding up? Want to grab breakfast?" I smiled, quickly typing back, "Sounds great." "Meet you at Joe's in 30." As I got ready, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. The man looking back seemed different, stronger, more confident. I liked what I saw. At the diner, Gloria was already there, a steaming cup of coffee in front of her. She waved as I walked up. "Mitchell, you look different," she observed, scrutinizing my face. I slid into the booth across from her. "Good different or bad different?" she chuckled. "Definitely good. You seem lighter somehow." The waitress approached, notepad ready. "What can I get you folks?" "I'll have the full breakfast," I replied. "I'm feeling quite hungry today." Gloria raised an eyebrow. Celebrating, I shrugged, a small smile playing on my lips. Maybe I am. As we ate, we chatted about everything and nothing. It felt refreshing to converse without the burden of revenge plans looming over me. "So what's next for you?" Gloria asked, pushing her empty plate away. I leaned back, pondering. "Well, first things first, I'm selling the house. Too many memories there. Where will you go?" "I'm thinking of moving to the city. A fresh start, you know." Gloria nodded. "That sounds like a good plan." "What about work?" I grinned. "Funny you should ask. I got a call from head office this morning. They're offering me a promotion, a senior management position." "Mitchell, that's fantastic," Gloria exclaimed. "When do you start?" "In 2 weeks. It's all happening pretty fast." We finished our coffee, making plans to meet up again soon. As I walked Gloria to her car, she turned to me, her expression earnest. "I'm proud of you, Mitchell. You've been through hell, but you're coming out stronger." I squeezed her hand. "Thanks, Gloria, for everything." Over the next few weeks, my life transformed. I threw myself into packing up the house, sorting through years of accumulated memories. It was cathartic, deciding what to keep and what to let go. The day the sold sign went up in front of the house, I felt a surge of triumph, another tie to my old life severed. On my last day in town, I met up with Lawrence for a drink. "So this is it?" "Ha," he said, raising his glass. "Mitchell Buck, big city hotshot." I clinked my glass against his. "Something like that." Lawrence's expression turned serious. "Listen, Mitch, I know I had my doubts about how you handled things with Christine, but I gotta say I'm impressed. You came out on top." I nodded, taking a sip of my drink. "I did what I had to do. No regrets." "And Christine, have you heard from her?" I shook my head. "Not a word, and that's just fine with me." As I drove out of town the next morning, I felt a sense of anticipation building. The road stretched out before me, full of possibilities. My new apartment in the city was sleek and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline. As I unpacked, my phone rang. It was my new boss. "Mitchell, just checking in. You all settled?" "Getting there, sir. Looking forward to starting on Monday. Glad to hear it. We've got big plans for you, Mitchell." "I think you're going to do great things here." I hung up, a smile spreading across my face. This was it, my new beginning. That weekend, I explored my new neighborhood, familiarizing myself with the local shops and restaurants. As I walked, I caught sight of my reflection in a store window. The man looking back at me stood tall, confident, ready to take on the world. I thought back to that night when Christine had walked out, how broken I'd felt, how lost. If someone had told me then that in a few short months I'd be here, starting a new life stronger than ever, I wouldn't have believed them. But I had done it. I had taken my pain and turned it into fuel, propelling myself forward. Christine had thought she could break me. Instead, she had made me unstoppable. I unlocked the door to my new apartment. This was my future, and it was bright. Months passed, and I threw myself into my new life. Work was challenging but rewarding, and I quickly made a name for myself in the company. My social life flourished with new friends and experiences filling my days. But even as I moved forward, I kept tabs on Christine, not out of any lingering attachment, but out of curiosity to see how far she'd fallen. One rainy afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Mitchell," the voice was familiar but rough, as if the speaker had been crying. I stiffened. "Christine, what do you want?" I need help," she said, her voice breaking. "I can't find a job." No one will hire me after everything. I leaned back, a cold smile playing on my lips. And you thought I'd help you? That's rich, Christine. Please, she begged. I have nowhere else to turn. My parents won't speak to me. My friends have all abandoned me, John. Let me guess, I interrupted. John went back to his wife. There was a long pause. How did you know I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears? Because I'm not an idiot, Christine. Unlike you. Mitchell, I know I hurt you. I made a terrible mistake. But please, can't you find it in your heart to forgive me? I still remembered the look on her face as she walked out that door. Forgive you, I said, my voice cold. Never. You made your choice, Christine. Now you get to live with the consequences. Goodbye, Christine. Don't call me again. I hung up, blocking her number for good measure. As I turned back to my work, I felt a sense of satisfaction. Christine was finally realizing the full extent of what she'd lost. Weeks later, I ran into Sarah, Christine's former colleague, at a business conference. Mitchell, she exclaimed, hurrying over. It's so good to see you. How have you been? I smiled, shaking her hand. I'm doing great, Sarah. How about you? How are things at the old firm? Sarah's expression turned uncomfortable. Oh, well, I actually don't work there anymore. None of us do. I raised an eyebrow. What happened? After everything with Christine, well, it came out that she'd been falsifying reports, inflating numbers. The whole company went under. I whistled low. That's, wow, I had no idea. Sarah said it was a mess. A lot of good people lost their jobs because of her lies. As we parted ways, I couldn't help but marvel at the extent of Christine's downfall. She lost everything: her marriage, her job, her reputation, and it was all of her own making. That evening, as I sat in my living room, glass of whiskey in hand, I allowed myself a moment of reflection. I thought about the man I'd been before Christine's betrayal: trusting, naive, weak. I raised my glass in a silent toast to that man. He was gone now, replaced by someone stronger, someone who wouldn't be fooled again. My phone buzzed with a text from Gloria. Dinner tomorrow? I've got news, I smiled, quickly typing back. Wouldn't miss it. 8 p.m. At Luigi's, as I set my phone down, I felt a sense of anticipation. My new life was full of possibilities, unmarred by Christine's toxic presence. I had come out of the fire forged into something harder, sharper, unbreakable. Christine could wallow in the consequences of her actions. I had a future to build. The restaurant was bustling when I arrived, the air filled with the clinking of glasses and the low hum of conversation. I spotted Gloria at a corner table, her face lit up with excitement. Mitchell, she called, waving me over. You're not going to believe this. I slid into the seat across from her, intrigued. Gloria leaned forward, her eyes sparkling. Remember that book idea I told you about? The one based on your story? I nodded. After everything that had happened with Christine, Gloria had approached me about writing a book, a cautionary tale about infidelity and its consequences. Well, Gloria continued, I just got off the phone with a publisher. They want it, Mitchell. They're offering a 3-book deal, Gloria. That's amazing. Congratulations, she reached across the table, squeezing my hand. It's all thanks to you, Mitchell. Your story. It's going to help so many people. As we celebrated over dinner, I felt a warm glow of satisfaction. My pain, my struggle, it was all going to mean something. People would learn from what I'd been through. The next morning, I woke to a flurry of notifications on my phone. Confused, I scrolled through them, my eyes widening with each message. It seemed Christine had finally snapped. She'd gone on a social media rampage, writing a series of increasingly unhinged messages about me, John, her former colleagues, anyone she blamed for her downfall. I watched in fascination as the drama unfolded. Christine's former friends chimed in, sharing their own stories of her lies and manipulations. John's wife, Lauren, posted a scathing takedown, exposing even more of Christine's deceptions. By midday, Christine's meltdown was trending on social media. I received a call from Alma, my divorce lawyer. Mitchell, she said, her voice tight with suppressed excitement. Have you seen what's happening? I replied, unable to keep the satisfaction from my voice. It's quite a show, I commented. It's more than that, Alma said. Christine's posts, some of them could be seen as threats against you, against her former employer. We might be able to take legal action. I leaned back, pondering. What do you suggest a restraining order for starters, and we might be able to sue for defamation? This could be the final nail in her coffin, Mitchell. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Whatever it takes. As I hung up, I felt a sense of satisfaction. Christine had brought this on herself. Every step of the way, she'd made choices that led to her own destruction. My phone buzzed with a text from Lawrence. Mitch, you seeing this? Your ex has lost it. I quickly typed back, I'm seeing it. Karma's huh. Later that evening, as the dust began to settle, I stood by my apartment window, looking out over the city. In the reflection of the glass, I saw myself strong, successful, unbowed by the betrayal that had once threatened to break me. I thought about Christine, alone and desperate, lashing out at a world she blamed for her own failures. I thought about John, crawling back to his wife, his affair exposed for all to see. And I thought about myself, how far I'd come, how much I'd grown. My phone rang. It was Gloria. Mitchell, she said, her voice excited. The publisher called. With everything that's happened today, they want to fast-track the book. They think it could be huge, I smiled, looking out at the twinkling city lights. That's great news, Gloria. I think you're right. People need to hear this story. As I hung up, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. This was it, the final victory. Christine had tried to destroy me, but instead she'd only destroyed herself. I raised my glass in a silent toast to new beginnings, to hard-won wisdom, to the man I'd become, the man who would never be betrayed again. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.